Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Attract and Stand Out podcast. I'm your host, Darlene, and I am so thrilled to bring today's guest to you guys. I am chatting with Summer Burnley. She is a business strategist, an attorney, and the owner of Burnley Law. She has a virtual boutique law firm specializing in business and trademark law. Her law firm is progressive law practice that has abandoned the traditional ways of doing law, and she has purposely chosen to forego a brick and mortar and has ditched the billable hours and has said goodbye to the ultra conservative legal uniform, which I am so thrilled to hear. She is humbled to be a part of the elite group of less than 1.7% of Black attorneys who practice intellectual property law. And her background is managing and strategizing with high-end multi 6 and 7 figure business owners to grow their businesses. Summer, I am so excited to have you here today. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much, Darlene. I'm really excited to be here to chat with you and the audience. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I had to have you on the show. Obviously, this is going to be such a fun conversation because you are amazing just in general, but everybody's
Oh,
always so curious when it comes to like law and like how to run their online businesses. And I love that you strictly kind of like said goodbye to the brick and mortar piece and you brought your business completely online and you're able to help support people in so many different ways now than you probably would have been had you just had that storefront at home. So I'm excited to like hear a little bit about your journey and just kind of dive into all that. But before we get started, let's just check in. How are we doing today? How are you feeling?
I am speaking, I will tell you, I'm on a little bit of a high because we launched the Lurk Lounge, as you know, today. And so that has been very exciting and like interesting on pins and needles. You'll laugh at me, but like every 2 hours, how many people have listens already? How many people have played, like an episode? So I'm really excited about that. But I'm just really excited to be here and ready to gems with everyone and excited to dive into the.
Yeah, let's definitely make a quick plug. So, Summer's talking about her brand new podcast, which was released today, which we are recording in the beginning of January. So, definitely after you listen to this episode and you fall in love with Summer, you're going to have to go find her podcast as well and take a listen and just dive into her amazing content, which I haven't had a chance to listen
Yeah.
to. I'm one of those people that have not hit the button yet to listen. So, I'll do that afterwards today.
Hey, it's okay. It's been less than 24 hours. I'll give you a pass.
But I'm glad that you brought that up because I remember about a year ago right now is when I started preparing for the Attract and Stand Out podcast. And I remember the excitement and that journey of putting everything together and like seeing this beautiful creation that I had envisioned of what these conversations would look like. And we're on season 2 now. And it's been so fun to like bring
Yay.
conversations to the table that people weren't able to have before. And just to hear like the
Yeah.
stories and the journeys of people and how they started their business and what they've gone through. Like when I get emails from people that have heard episodes or people like the energy that people have after they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do it. And I listened to this podcast and I heard this story and how so and so started their business and did this and like all the impact it's been able to make. And it's given people like the hope and the determination to keep going and keep doing the thing, even on the days that things feel hard. Like we all have hard days,
Yeah.
but it's what we learn during that process that helps us move forward. I know that's been the case for me and maybe for you too, but like every time I fail, I don't think of it as a failure. I think of, oh my gosh, like it didn't work how I thought it was going to, but I've learned so much during that process that now I'm like,
Oh,
I can
yeah.
add that too. And then it works the next time, or maybe the time after that.
Yeah, definitely. I always like to think, especially in business, nothing a failure. Like, yeah, it didn't work, but it's like, what did you learn from it not working? How are you going to adjust? How are you going to pivot? How are you going to change? Because when it comes to, I mean, my business, I can just speak for myself and say, I don't really give myself the option for it not to work. So it's like, okay, this was not the right mode or the right method, the right way to launch. Let's try this again. What didn't work? Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the content. Let's look at our marketing. What were we missing? Where did we miss the mark? And um I kind of take, responsibility for that. And it's like, okay, well, we go on to plan B and we pivot and we do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote an article recently that said that I had no plan B. And that was because, like, my business is my baby. Like, I love my business. I love
Yeah.
the things that I do. There's no other option here. Like, I'm going to keep getting back up and standing on my 2 feet and move forward however I need to and pivot and switch things up and try again. And some days it feels like it's like impossible and I'm never going to get where I'm trying to go. And then other days I'm like, holy crap, when I look back, I'm like, I've come so far. Like, I know personally, like, as a business owner, the Darlene in 2007 who started her business coaching practice versus the Darlene you get today, like, she's a totally different person. Like, I almost don't recognize
Different
her.
person.
But it's because I kept getting
Yeah.
back up and I kept getting knocked down and I kept, doing the work and step by step, day by day of doing those things.
And isn't that like part of the beauty of the process, being able to adjust and being able to change and then being excited knowing, okay, you're changing for the better, right? Because as you grow, as you evolve, as you change, not only does your business change, but you are also being able to take all that great and offer it to your audience, offer it to your clients and help them grow and expand as well. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing because it doesn't really stop with us. It expands and it has a ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it continues going forward from there. And every time
Yeah.
you learn, it adds a whole new ripple. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Um, I would love to hear just a little, like, give us a peek into, like, the early summer. Like, how did you start your business? Like, how did you get to where you are today? Like, share some of that story with us of how you got here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so how do I make this long story short? Gee. Okay, so I've known since I was in the seventh grade that I wanted to be an attorney. And so I basically, made sure that every decision that I was making was going to um get me to law school, right? So that I could graduate. And it's interesting because, like I say, this was like in seventh grade, and it stemmed from a conversation I had with Mr. Hill, my history teacher. And it was something along lines like I've always been like inquisitive and like anally inquisitive. Like I was always the kid that was like, but why? But why? But why? you know, I think he kind of got like a little ticked at me, like looking back. He's like, well, if you're going to change it, then, you're going to have to go to law school and become a lawyer or whatever. And I was like, fine, I will, thank you. um, and so after law school, I knew I wanted to start my own law firm, and I knew I wanted to hang my own shingle. That's what it's called, when you go out on your own in the law field. And they frowned upon to do that straight out of law school, right? And I knew I wanted to get some more experience from a business perspective because I knew I wanted to be helping entrepreneurs and small businesses. But I'm like, Sally man gonna give me no more money. So be the next option. So I intentionally like sought out other small business owners and like entrepreneurs who were in that beginning and launch stage of their business. And I ended up with my old employer who I was with for about 5 years and literally like just worked my way through the ranks. And that's where I got a lot of my business expertise and like business skill. And what's interesting is I would always talk about wanting to go back to school, and he'd be like, no, you're in my school, you're in the school of blank, and he would say whatever his last name is. And he was so right. He was so right. And after 2 years of being there, he took me to dinner one night and basically was like, I'm going to hand you the keys to this company. And so learn on my own what to do. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had a unique set of skills, that was lended to the growth and expansion of these high-end 6 and 7 figure businesses that he was running. And so it got to a point where I was like, all right, I told myself I would give myself 5 years and true to my word, when that 5 year came, I wasn't thinking about it being 5 year, but I'm a Christian. And I just kept getting all these signs and feels like it's time for you to leave. And so I did. But because of my position, I was working like 80 plus hours a week. And so I knew that if I was going to leave to start my law firm, that I had to choose myself in the firm instead of choosing the business, because there was no way working, 78 a week that I was going to be able to put in the time to actually grow and nurture the law firm. And so I left in August um, from that company, and then all that time in between, building my firm. And I hadn't launched yet, but I was getting my systems and processes together, making sure, my content was together, making sure my story and my message and who I wanted to work with was very clear. And I was very intentional of when I started, I wanted to start a certain way. So I knew I wanted to run a virtual law practice. I didn't want to start off limited in who I could help. I knew I wanted to do certain types of law. I knew I wanted to help small businesses and entrepreneurs. And just to be honest, in my true anal nature, it was like, okay, I can't start this like any old kind of way. Like if it's gonna be attached to me, like I gotta do it right. And so literally that's how I started, and that's what I did. And I worked those 80 hours into getting my law firm ready to launch from that August to January. And in January we launched, and been a roller coaster, like a beautiful, crazy roller coaster of a year. It really has.
Yeah. So was this January of last year then? Of 2021?
Yes, January of last year. Yeah, I launched January 6, 2020, right before the worldwide pandemic. And thankfully was blessed to be able to expand and still grow and help entrepreneurs also grow and expand during that time as well.
Yeah. It was like you were meant to be during that part, right? Where you were able to support other people through their process as
Yeah,
well. Like everything
definitely.
was for that.
Yeah, and what's funny is because as far as the legal profession goes, virtual practices are still very new, like last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So I, when I was speaking to my mentors about I'm going to do this virtual thing, it was like, oh no, like, do that. That's like suicide, professional suicide. Well. And I'm like, okay, well, I can listen to what they're trying to tell me, or I can go with my gut and what it is that I want to do. And I'm like, it's my business, so I'm going to do what it is that I want to do. And it's just interesting the way, things happen in the world works, because, a few months later, they were calling me like, hey, so what kind of systems and stuff were you doing? Can you like come in and talk to us like a little bit about like how we like navigate this online space, and is this going to affect the business, like and those types of things.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, now you want to be in the online space. Huh? Can't have anybody come to
Yeah.
you.
Right. Because most people, like when I started my business back in 2007, it was completely on the ground. I was networking. I had an office space. I was doing everything like a brick and mortar type of business,
Yeah.
basically. And it wasn't until we moved from Las Vegas to California, and my youngest was 6 months old at the time, that I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to continue that process of networking,
Yeah.
going out into the field every single day with a 6 month old in a brand new state? And I knew like one family here, and I was like, I don't want to put my son in preschool or different things like that. And I had to get real creative. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this online. I was like, I know you can do this online. And so I started doing the research of what that would look like. And thank God I did that 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago, I guess, because it was so nice. Like when COVID hit, so many people were like, all right,
Yeah.
Darlene, like you have an online business. How do you do it? Like, how do you market? How do you find clients? Like, what do you do? How do you do all these things? And I was able to support so many people, clients and just friends and people that would come to me and just were like waving their flag, like help, like I'm over here.
Yeah.
COVID changed so much for them. And I was so glad that I already had that online business so that I didn't have to pivot. I didn't have to like change what
Yeah.
I was doing. I was able to step in and kind of support in that way.
Yeah. But for people like who had to make that transition, it's a complete like business model change. It's not like, one or two things like, oh, you just set up Zoom and then talk to you. Like, no, you have to completely shift like several components of your business model for it to continue to work effectively. And I don't know you, but I know even a couple of the people that I was helping, it was like they were trying to botch the process because, oh, this pandemic thing's not going to last long, right? It's just a little virus, not that many people are sick. And it's like, you can try to half step this process if you want, but you're not really setting yourself up for success or to scale because we don't know how long this thing is going to last, right? And look, here we are, 2021, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Now, I know you're in California, but I'm in Florida, and it's like it's like what pandemic, right? We're like wide open, but
Which
not
is
all
crazy,
places are like that.
which is crazy because like nothing's open here. I'm like, I would
It's
love
so crazy. It's so crazy. I go nowhere, trust no one. I'm like, no, like staying in my bubble. Yeah.
yeah, definitely stay in your bubble. But it's true. Like so many people have really figured out they have to embrace the fact that they need to be able to run their business online for the unforeseeable future. Like
Yeah.
even when things do, like once people get um what's it called? Like the vaccination and things are, hopefully improving from that point. Like there's still this year of time, people are not going to forget really quickly. Like a lot of people are
Mm-mm.
going to maybe go back to normal, but what does normal look like now? Like so much has
Yeah.
changed during the past year between the virus and just our world. Like
Yeah.
we have to consider like all the different pieces that have happened and what that's going to look like too. So it's good to embrace it because a lot of people are going to love this lifestyle too. Like they're not going to want to go back to having a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to figure out like I can work from home, I can work from a vacation rental, I can
Yep.
not that I lead like a laptop lifestyle, but I can if I wanted to, I guess, right? Like
Yep.
it's
And
nice.
have less overhead.
Yeah, and the overhead is amazing. Like not having to pay rent. I have a co-working space that I go to when I need to meet with people or if I want to get out of the house a little bit here and there. But not having that big overhead is huge for so many
Yeah, it
people.
really is. It is. And one of the things that I always found interesting. So as you mentioned, like in my bio, in my practice, I combine both skill set, the strategic business side for growth and having a solid business foundation, also with the legal knowledge and the legal guidance of how to like own and protect your brand as well, because for a successful business you need both, right? And I find that a lot of clients when they come to me, they're good at whatever it is their service is, or they've got a really good product, that they're selling or putting out in the world, but they really have no idea how to run and operate and manage
Yeah,
a business, right? Which is, not anything to, like talk bad about them. You know what you don't know. Everybody has a special, unique skill set for a reason, but one of the questions that I would get from several clients too during the pandemic was like, how did you become so good at this? Like how did you learn how to, hit these kind of pivots, and be successful at them? It's funny because speaking about, like how I got here, I always kind of joke and I'm like, I've been pivoting for the past 5 years. Like that's all you do. And like, even in an actual business, your business is one big pivot, pandemic or not. And so in the company that I was working for before, especially when you are managing and overseeing an entity, you have this CEO hat where you know all of the various roles and you are pivoting in each of those roles and having them play off each other at various times, um throughout the business journey, right?
yeah,
And so it's like you have to be good at pivoting and learning and knowing when to pivot. And that's something, and a skill set in itself that a lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily have, just because they haven't had to use it. They haven't had to, stretch that skill set or that side of their brain before, because they haven't been in a situation like that. But knowing when to do that and embracing it is a very important piece to the success of business.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that, like we know most people that come to us, like they know their field, like they're really good at whatever it is they do, whether it's because they've learned it in a past career and now they're starting their own business. But they don't always know like the business piece to it, kind of like what you had shared.
Hmm.
Like you knew you wanted to be an attorney, you had gone to school for it, but you're like, what's the business piece to it? Like you found a way for it to learn the business side of it. That's kind
Yeah.
of like where I come in and where you come in. Like that's where you can help people to like, okay, you be really good at what you do because I'm really good at knowing
Yeah.
how to help you build an online business. Like that's my skill set, that's my background, that's my education, and that's what I'm good at. You don't have to know how to do this. I'll teach you and I'll show you all the steps to build it out. But people think like as soon as you come out of school, like nobody prepares you for running a business. Like even the companies that
No.
teach you how to run a business, they don't really prepare you. They give you a couple tips, a couple tricks. Like most people are just really good at whatever they do and they're trying to figure out the business side of it. And so it's so important to have
Yes.
partners that you can partner up with and get a coach or get a mentor, or get some kind of support system in place so that you can move forward and not feel like, okay, like I'm really good at doing hair, but I don't know how to like run
Hmm.
a business piece to it. Like, where do I get clients at? They don't teach you that. So
Yeah.
teaching people with those pieces is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, says a lot too about why the rate in those first 3 years is what it is, right? And it's because people have that knowledge and that skill set. They really just focus on their service or their product, because you think that's the golden ticket, right? Until you realize there's all these is that kind of come along with being a business owner and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's like you had said before, like where you hung your shingle. It's like you expect to hang your shingle up and you're like, okay, here I am. I'm ready.
Yep.
Like,
Come to me.
where are the rest of the people? Like, where are the people that are going to walk into my business or find my website in the online space? Like, we have to create marketing strategies to get those people there. But you almost come out of, I think, every industry, like, no matter what schooling you've done, you're like, all right, I got my degree. Like, I'm ready to go.
Hmm.
And you have to, like, it's almost like you're surprised. I know I was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to be so easy to get clients. I'm a business coach. Like, yeah, I went to school and I'm trained for this and I have all this information in my brain. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, crap, where are the people at that are going to hire me? Like, I had to like
Yeah.
really go out there and work for it. And it was hard, especially
Yeah.
those first 2 years. Like, I learned so much about myself in those 2 years from
Mm.
like how to stop pretending to be somebody that I wasn't, like trying to do all
Ooh, that's a big one.
like I always joke like I was wearing that I felt like I was wearing my mom's clothes and I was playing dress up in her closet because I was wearing business suits and I was trying to see what other business coaches were doing and I was like, oh, they wear a business suit and they carry like that leather bound little like notebook thing to their appointments and like sometimes they have a briefcase and I was like, so I need to do those things too and I'm like, this is not me. Like I do not feel comfortable. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
as myself. It was like I was wearing a mask the whole time. And I was not, people didn't get to know who Darlene was because I was too busy trying to like make that facade of like who I thought they wanted me to be. And when I
Yeah.
realized that I could show up wearing a cute dress and I could actually like build connection and like show my personality and just be myself, like that's going to attract people and it's going to push
Yes.
away people that are not my dream clients too, right? Like not
Yeah.
everybody likes me. I'm okay with that. Totally fine. Like we all have like the people that we attract in and the people that are
Yeah.
for us. And the more that we can be ourselves and the more that we authentically just show up and connect with people, that's when my business started to change, was when I was just being me and stop trying to be all these other people that I was like, oh, that's what their success looks like. So I should emulate that too. And I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's not working at all. Like I'm not connecting with
Yeah.
anybody.
What's so interesting, because so when I started, I've always been, even as a little girl, like a person who was like very sure of myself and like who I was, and um like very self-aware. And so I knew when I started my practice, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this virtually. I ain't going to have some fancy, high rise office. And sometimes I might say stuff like, I ain't, and I'm still a fantastic lawyer, don't worry, I won't write that up, in your like office action letter. Like, but it's like, I'm not going to show up in some like fancy buttoned up suit to, like our meetings and our appointments. Like, that's just who I am. And I didn't want to put on a facade like that. Where I really struggled was, okay, I want to add this new area of practice into my business. And I was really concerned about what other attorneys would say about me adding this new practice in without having practiced it before. And so I found myself being very cautious and all of a sudden caring about, what are my peers going to think? And, what are they going to say? Like all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I let that go. And it was, I'd known that this is like one of the practice areas that I was really passionate about and really wanted to do, and was really playing it small in that area by not giving myself the opportunity to just do it. And so you talk about like attracting and standing out. It wasn't until I verbally was just kind of like, F it. Like, nope, I have been studying this. I've had mentors, who've like helped me in this. I have the knowledge. I've been doing all the research and stuff myself. I can successfully and effectively help clients in this area, And it wasn't until I was like, all right, guess what? New practice area. This is what I'm doing. Come check your girl out. That it was like, okay, now like the abundance of, like business walls have opened. And I think part of it is one, just being open and accepting, that abundance, but also being able to feel the genuineness of like, oh, this is her jam.
Yeah.
Like, this is what she does. And so being able to attract those people and being okay with the fact, if you want a buttoned up attorney, you're probably not going to come to me, and that's okay, because I'm not going to be what you want, and we're not going to vibe that well.
And there's a button up
And so
there that they can go to.
it is. And there's plenty enough work out here for us all, right? Like I do believe that there is a shortage of legal work at all, attorney. And there are a lot of us out there, right? But I just don't believe in that. And I do believe in, the laws of attraction and speaking out and calling those clients and only working with those people who I feel like bring me joy and who I have a good energy exchange with. And, I heard someone else say this in a podcast, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm so taking that. But it was like, if there's no energy exchange, there's no money exchange. Like, sorry, I'm going to tell you no. Like, and, I think that was another thing for me in my, that I intentionally set out to do a little differently, especially as an attorney. When you're first starting, it's like, oh, it's going to be hard, just like any business. Work's going to be scarce. Take whatever comes through the door. And I intentionally was like, no, I'm not going to do that. You start off doing that now, and then when do you stop? Like,
You don't.
off thinking, you're never going to get your ideal client. You're never going, to have the client you work with. Then that's always going to be the case. So I was very intentional about who I chose to work with, whose money I chose to accept. Because yes, you could pay me to do a service for you, but if we're not enjoy working together, why not give your money to somebody who, you're going to be excited to get on the phone with every day?
You get to
Oh,
choose where you put your money. So absolutely, like
you do. You
you want to
do.
work with people that light you up and make you excited just as much as like you as the attorney want to work with clients that light you up and excite you. Like you shouldn't have to like work with people that don't have the same values, don't have the same like beliefs and like feelings, and like there's so many pieces that can come into that. And then you get into a
It
situation
is.
and you're like, why am I working with this person? They're exhausting, they're draining me, they're pushing all my buttons. And then it goes back to like, why am, like, in my business, I talk a lot about like making sure that you're attracting those right people. Like,
Yeah.
share your values, talk about like what's important to you, take a stand for something. Like, how do you want to make an impact in the world? Like, what things do you
Yeah.
believe in? That way people can, like, you're going to pull the same people that have those same feelings, versus working with somebody where you hate showing up and working with them, and they say stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I'm working with this person. Like, they
Yeah.
think differently than me. And then it makes you like uncomfortable. And then you have to get in a situation where you either fire them and like end that relationship, or you're miserable the whole time you're working with them. So
And nobody wants to be miserable working with somebody else. Let's just be honest and put that out on the table, right? It's especially like as entrepreneurs, none of us took on this entrepreneurial journey like because to be miserable. Like most of us were leaving miserable situations.
yeah, we left corporate America or whatever it was that we did before. And maybe we loved like what we did, but maybe we didn't love the politics that came with it,
Correct.
the inner gossip and like all the negative things that can come out of those environments,
Yes.
like how we're treated and respected. So as entrepreneurs, we should for sure take the time to like attract the right people, because there's no reason to work with somebody who you're like, oh my gosh, I can't work with you another day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I find is, and this has only happened a couple of times, where I've actually had to like turn down a client and say like, no, I can refer you to someone else, but like I won't be able to help you. But it's like they love me. I'm like the best person for them. Oh my gosh, so amazing, so excited to work with me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, because of something that has transpired during the conversation, and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna go well. This is not gonna end well. And it's almost like it's not you, it's me.
That line works whether you're dating somebody or in your business there, right?
Right, right. And so it's like but I will say, and the couple times that it's happened, it's made me revisit my copy every time, because I think to myself, like, okay, what did they like? What connected with them? What did they read that led them to believe that like we would be a good match? And sometimes I have found sometimes it's not necessarily like my copy has been okay. It's like, okay, they had most of the qualities. It's just these couple where it was like, oh, this is not going to work out. And if I'm just being honest, the couple times that it has not worked out, where it was like, oh, chauvinistic, like, trying to be my client, it's like, no, we're not doing that over here. I'm sorry.
Not happening.
Like,
Not on my watch.
yeah, not on my watch. But that was also something, and I have male clients who, don't get me wrong, but that was like something that led me to be more upfront in my copy and saying like, hey, I am here to really help like entrepreneur. Like, yes, their allies are welcome to, hey, this is really who I am looking to connect with, and who I am passionate about helping. And I even like, I've had a couple of my male clients every time where they'll email me or like DM me before their clients, and they're like, hey, so do you really only help women? And I'm like, okay, now I have to give the spiel about. But the interesting part is I also see that as an opportunity, because I'm like, okay, this person may need to have a deeper conversation for their business about copy and ideal clients type of thing. And it's typically a situation where I'm going to do my research, and I'm like, yeah, we have room for improvement in this area. So now I'm talking to you about these legal services that you need, but we're also going to talk about the business foundations and operations and all these other various ways where you can improve as well. So it's been like, it's worked to my benefit,
Yeah.
right? To have them ask those types of questions. Yeah, because I have found is ever since I changed and became forthright in saying that, the male clients that I have had are very much like allies and supporters of women in business and women owning business, as opposed to the others who were I won't even go down that road, but you can just imagine how some of the conversation, when it was almost like they were my boss,
Yeah.
me about like my business and tell me what we're going to do. And, it's like,
You're like,
maybe not
that's not going to work for me
today.
it's it's something to be aware of though, right? Like we get to choose
Yeah.
how we want to show up and who we want to work with. And I love that, like, you almost give an opportunity where you get to have the conversation and you get to make that choice when your customers come to you, like, yes, I want to work with you, or no, actually, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. Like, because you can see those flags so quickly. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about like what have been some of your biggest successes? Like, what are some of your like most proud moments since you started your business?
Okay, so one of my proudest moments, actually goes back to the one I was just discussing where I was basically like, no, I'm gonna add in this service. And like within days, I was booked out for like 2 weeks. And truly just made me realize, had I paid attention and been obedient to the signs before, I could have been so much further along, probably, by now in the business, but that was an awesome moment for me, because that was where I truly learned that I can be my 100% authentic self,
Yeah.
and those people will come to me, and it won't be just one or two. They will appreciate me being who I am, and, be comfortable looking for me, and working with me. And, just, I would say another a moment for me would be not necessarily one specific moment, but those moments when my clients start to learn to fly on their own, when they start to become very comfortable making those CEO decisions in their business for themselves. Like, it starts off, with you wanting to check with me for every single little thing that you're doing, but I try to make sure like I'll empower them to be able to make those decisions. So being able to see that as, an awesome and proud moment for me, it's like a proud parent, and then just to have clients who affirm what it is that I'm doing, because it reminds me that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that as long as I'm rooted in my passion and my beliefs and stay true to my values and who I am, that I'll continue to have the impact that I'm having, and I'll continue to so I would say for me, those are some of the most proud moments that I've had.
Yeah. What do you feel has been like the biggest thing for you to overcome as you've grown your business?
Um, the biggest thing for me to overcome, being a Black woman who's in the legal field, especially practicing um, intellectual property. The last stats that I looked at, there are like 1.7% of Black attorneys who practice intellectual property. And of course, that percentage is much less for Black women. And so I 100% believe that representation matters, but being in a field, in an industry, in a niche where you don't necessarily see people who look like you, if you are not really strong in who you are and what you do and why you're doing it, it would be really easy to fall into that whole like imposter syndrome mindset. And there have been times where, I've myself, because I can see other people and it's like, especially with ground, like, well, I should be here, or why haven't I done X, Y, and Z, And I just have to like, okay, Summer, that's not your fight. That's your race, like stay in your lane, focus what you're supposed to focus on. And then I just have to like get myself together really quick. And then we just continue to go on. Like, and I guess that's part of um also just how I operate in business as well. It's like, yeah, those days come, but like I literally don't have time to allow myself to wallow in them, because the more I wallow, I'm impacting, the less client work, that I'm doing, like I'm holding my clients back, Um, now don't get me wrong, if it's valid, like, yeah, there are days where you need self-care, need to take care of yourself, but like on those days where I'm just kind of like, woe is me, and I'm like, all right, girl, get out of it. Like, we got bigger problems in the world. Get back to work. Say a prayer.
Yeah. But when you step up more, right? Because you're like, all right, I have
Yeah.
to clear impact, and this is why, like, because what the work that you're doing is opening doors for other women of color.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna look at you and they're gonna say, like, I see somebody else who looks like me, and I'm able to step forward and do the work that I actually want to do, and they're not gonna have that negative thought in the back of their mind where, like, oh, I can't do it, nobody else has done it before. Like, you're paving ways and paving paths, and that's such a honorable, like, cool thing for people to see, is that, like, there's a road ahead and they can follow it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's amazing that we live in a times where we're able to see so much change and so much goodness come, and see so much opportunity shift and like move forward. Like, I'm honored to be in this generation where we're seeing like massive things happen, and to support.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny because I think about and this may sound crazy, but I often think about like, would my ancestors be proud? You know, especially being a Black woman, and like even my own grandmother and my grandparents and great grandparents having to deal with so much and fight so hard just to have the little that they did, you know and one of my closest girlfriends is white, and typically the race would not be important, but we met in law school. And I remember when like and a couple of our first conversations, she asked me some like really random like stereotypical question about Black people. And I was like, girl, did you not have like any Black friends growing up? you know? And she was like, I mean, I went to school with like 2,000, like two of them were like people of color. And I actually think they were mixed. And I'm like, so that was a no, right? She's from Colorado. So, um, and we were having a conversation, after all the stuff like at the Capitol went down, you know,
Yeah.
and she's like, she was saying, it's hard to believe that, a few years ago, she and I would have been able to like go to like one of our favorite restaurants or whatever. And I was like, well, you've been able to go, but they wouldn't have let me in. And it's like, it's not a laughing matter,
Yeah.
but it's like, we're not, that really was not a go, so to feel and see myself being able to make an impact, other women of color who are coming behind me, that's not something I take lightly.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. So yeah.
You mentioned like if your ancestors would be proud of you, and obviously I can't speak for them, but absolutely I think they were. I think they are. Like,
I think they would too. I'm pretty dope.
you're pretty awesome. You're paving ways for so many people going forward, and that's, you can't take that lightly. Like, you're changing lives and you're making
Yeah.
impact. And the generations that are going to come, talking about ripple effects again, like the ripple effect of the generations to come, and like what that's gonna expand and open up for, and so many lives it's a huge honor to witness. So,
It is. And the other thing that I think about too is, if I'm being honest, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, right? If you are not providing your service or your product for something other than yourself or someone other than yourself, if you are only in this for self, it's going to be real easy for you to give up. It's going to be real easy for you to be discouraged, and it's going to be, real easy for you to throw in the towel when you have nothing else kind of pushing you to keep going. It's like, why are you this? If it's only for yourself and you're not happy, then why are you doing it?
no, absolutely. I always say that, like, what I'm creating now is going to impact like my family's legacy, and it's going to bring more good to the world because we're making changes. Like, we're doing the work
Yeah.
now that like our ancestors or prior generations, like they weren't willing to put the work in. They weren't willing to make change, and they were like wearing blinders and living in their own little bubbles. And I know for myself,
Yeah.
like, I grew up in Las Vegas, and luckily I did grow up in a very diverse city. Like, Vegas does have a lot of diversity to it. And it wasn't until like, even when I moved to California, like, how much I realized I was lucky how I grew up, that I got to see so much different sides of people and be around a lot of
Mm,
different groups of people. And I had friends from different um, cultures and backgrounds and colors and all of those things. And I'm like,
yeah.
that's so important to me today, to make sure that my kids are very aware and that they step forward and they like watch what's happening around them, and they step in and take action and be a part of the solution, and not just sit back and stay quiet and stay still.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
ancestors are super happy. Our legacy in the future, they're going to be super happy too.
Yes. Yes. Big shout out for legacy, because
Yeah,
that's a big one.
it is big. Well, I know we've been chatting for a little while, and I know we have to kind of wrap things up. I always end my interviews with some rapid fire questions. So I would
All
love
right.
to dive into that with you and just learn a little bit more about who you are. And I think it's more for me than anything else. I like to
All
get the.
right. Cool.
So my first question for you is, what are you binge watching right now? Like, are you watching anything on Netflix or on TV? Like, what is it that you're, during all this COVID time, I feel like so many people are like binging something. So what are you binging?
So the interesting part about that is, I'm not a binger at all. I never have been. I am not a big TV person. I have a couple of shows that I love, but I don't binge them. Like, my husband has finished seasons without me because we will be like 2 new seasons and I'm still like 3 seasons behind. So, yeah, it's like I can watch an hour of TV like a day, and like it's usually with my husband because he loves TV and that's how he winds down, and then I'm out. Like I physically cannot take anymore. Like, yeah, it's crazy. But some of my favorite shows, when I do watch, would be Grey's Anatomy. I've been watching that since the beginning of time. I like A Million Little Things. I like This Is Us. We love the Power series. I loved Scandal when that was out, How to Get Away with Murder. Revenge has been gone a long time, but I used to love that show. So yeah.
We could watch TV together. Those are definitely shows that I like to watch too.
Okay.
Okay. And what's on your nightstand? Are you reading anything right now?
So I don't have it here. I'll show you actually, since we're on YouTube. So it's called My God Today.
Awesome.
It is 365 questions for people who might be a little ratchet, but God knows your heart. My best friend actually gave this to me, and it's by Dr. Lori Elise Kroom, who's actually from uh, Birmingham. She's an obstetrician, but she takes these little snippets of song, and she basically weaves them in a Bible verse and gives you like a whole devotion like from that. It's an interesting read.
That's awesome. I love it. And who would you say has made the biggest impacts in your life?
Oh, my mom.
Mom.
My mom, one of the most amazing women that I know. I don't know how she did it all, how she does it all. She is just like I I can't explain the amount of respect and love that I have for her, just like as a woman, as a mom, as just a human on earth, just amazing. She's witty, she is beautiful, she is funny, she is like if you could just like bottle up the perfect person and like put it in a little 5-2 frame, it would be my mom.
Aw, I so love that. Like you're giving me all the mom feels. That's amazing. Every child should speak about their mother like that. So beautiful.
She's wonderful.
And do you have a morning routine? Like, are you like somebody who has kind of like a few things you like to do each day to set out to get your morning going properly?
Oh, yeah. So outside of the normal like stuff you do in the bathroom, I typically always would start with one of three drinks are always in rotation. It's either a large glass of water, a vanilla matcha latte, or a cup of coffee. And then sometimes in the day, I will have typically my green smoothie. I put basically the same thing in it every morning. And then I will come to my office and go right to work.
Perfect. Get your morning
Simple.
right. Simple. I like it. All right, two more questions for you. What is your happy spot? Like, where do you like to go to recharge, reset? Or what do you like to do even?
Ooh. Typically that's with my family. Yeah, because I'm originally from Alabama. I live in Florida now, and my husband is originally from Ohio, so it's just the two of us here. And we are both really big family people, and so typically when I'm getting like extremely um anxious or just stressed, just like in those little like moods, I'm okay, I need like a family charge. Like I need to see and be around like a bunch of people love me and want to love on me and like hug me, give me all the so yeah, definitely my family.
Amazing. And my last question, and I still am asking this question even with COVID, because I'm like super curious about travel. If I could get you a plane ticket and you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go right now?
Rome,
Rome.
easy. Rome's one of my favorite travel destinations. I could probably go every single time I go on vacation. It is something about the beauty, the calm, the old world charm that is in Rome that just makes me feel like at home and at peace.
Yeah, I love it. I totally would pack my bag and go with you if we could go right now. Hopefully
Come
soon.
on, girl.
We'll have a girls trip. Summer, it's
Yeah.
been so fun having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me and just share so much of your beautiful story. I know people are curious how they can connect with you. Where do you like to hang out? Social media, websites? Where do you want to send people to check out and learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. I'm regularly on Instagram at Burnley Law. That's RNLEYLAW. And my website is www.burnleylaw.com as well. And I got a little freebie on my website too for people who may be interested. You can also access it from the link in my bio on my Instagram page, but it's a nice little entrepreneur legal cheat sheet. So kind of going over some of the legal things if you are kind of like really strapped and wondering what do I need to focus. The cheat sheet will give you an idea.
Yeah. And so many people are always curious about that. So go download her cheat sheet. Summer's got an amazing one on her website. And we will make sure that the link for that is below in the show notes as well. But thank you, Summer. It's been so fun. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I loved it. Thank you, Darlene.
You're so welcome. All right, guys, that's a wrap with this episode. We'll see you guys back again next week. Have an amazing week.